All right, welcome.
Yeah, got a little special episode for you today.
Yeah,
Thought we'd do a 2-in-1.
We got a special announcement to make.
Yeah, but I guess before we get to that, it does actually feel strange starting with no intro.
It's weird having no intro. We should do just a quick little, like a special announcement intro.
Yeah, Jordan, hit it.
Special announcement. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
It feels more comfortable.
And yeah, so our announcement is that we're actually going to be winding down the Daily Solutions podcast a little later this month.
Yeah, we've been doing this every day.
For what feels like a couple decades at least.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I was like 4 years old when this started.
Yeah, since like the early 70s, which is a long run for any podcast.
Impressive, to say the least. But yeah, so really though, that's we've decided to kind of put an end date on this thing,
which is sad for all of us, you, us, Jordan, our audio engineer, and we kind of knew getting into this that we wouldn't be able to do the Daily Solutions podcast forever.
Yeah,
although externally
we
also said that we were just going to do it forever.
But like all kind of projects, you got to think about when to put a nice little bow on them. And this is just what has felt like the right time to us. And it's based on both just, our kind of own time and us having a lot of stuff on our plate and always wanting to hop around and being kind of restless people that don't ever like to do the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and our goal was actually to not have to do the same thing over and over again in making this podcast. We get so many questions in from people all over the world and from the float industry. And part of the resource we wanted to create here was to have this nice database of answers to the most common float questions that are out there. And if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, then we pretty much tackled that in like the first 100 episodes. So the questions have really just been getting more and more specific and nuanced, which is great, but to a large degree, we really did accomplish kind of what we set out to do at the very beginning.
Yeah, we've answered every single possible float question that could exist in any form. So
that's it. We'd keep going if you guys were better at sending questions.
There just are no more questions.
You have no one to blame but yourself. So,
so we're approaching the kind of 1 year mark for this podcast, and we decided to just kind of give it a nice bookend right there. So we'll be doing 365 episodes.
And then plus, our episode 00, sort of our intro secret
bonus,
episode.
366. That way, if you want to listen to all these during a leap year, you'll be able to still.
And then, we're also going to be doing this final live episode where we do a 2-hour call-in show. And so that'll, I guess, be 367. But that'll be really fun. It'll give you a chance to actually interact with us live on the air. You can also just hire people off the street to interact with us if you want them to call in. That'll be fine too. And we'll be doing this at the end of the month. So it's going to be on November 29th. Make sure to mark that down in your calendar.
Yeah, we'll be doing it at 3 o'clock Pacific time. And we'll release the details in terms of exactly how to call in and kind of that sort of specifics as we go along here.
Yep, and if we have it, if we're responsible enough, it'll just be down in the show notes.
Yeah, but it may or may not be there.
And in the meantime, I guess if you have any questions that you do want answered, now's the time to send them in.
Yeah, this is your last chance.
If you have any intro songs that we haven't done yet that you really want to hear a certain genre, go type those in. Where do they type those in, by the way?
Oh, well, there's this handy little website called floatanksolutions.com/podcast. Don't know if you've heard about it, but
yeah, so go there, send us requests. We'll take some of them.
Yeah, get them while it's hot. Because after this, we're taking a vow of silence for the next year, so we won't be able to answer, and a vow of still fingers, so we can't answer emails either.
Vow of still fingers. Very modern kind of communication vow you end up taking these days.
Yeah. But so, this is it. You better get them in.
So we are also thinking about switching to an occasional Solutions podcast format. We'll see if that happens as well.
Because this has been really fun. We've been having a really good time doing it. I'm not sure if that's been coming through, but and we also have just been having a really fun time making music. So this may not be the end of us just making random music.
Yeah, it might be a little band coming out of this whole project.
We're our plan is also to release an album of just the intros at some point after this podcast wraps up. So you can look forward to the cut of our first album.
So if that sounds terrible and you'd never listen to an album of just our intros, go to floatanksolutions.com/podcast and let us know.
Tell us it's a horrible idea.
Yeah, figure out something else to do with those. I also wanted to just kind of give a huge shout out to a lot of people who have been contributing to this podcast who you might not know as much behind the scenes. So
Ashkahn, big, really underrepresented in how much his contribution is.
That is true, Dark Ashkahn. I see what you're talking about, Evil Ashkahn. Regular Ashkahn has been absent for a lot of our recordings. So right here in the studio, we have Jordan Lamp, who makes all of our intros with us.
A huge part of it.
Balances out all the spikes in our audio.
Our intros basically start with Graham and I just going like, loop, 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 and then Jordan turns it into the music that you're actually listening to.
Magic. And, of course, also behind the scenes, we have Juliet Tango Milan, who writes up all of the show notes for us, goes through all of our transcriptions, generally makes things look good in our website version of all of this. So the show definitely would not be as entertaining to read along with were it not for her massive efforts.
And matches all of our show notes challenges that we put out there.
Yeah, we'll put the number of show notes challenges that she's matched so far in the show notes, too, this one. And likewise, behind the scenes, just the entire Float Tank Solutions team.
Yeah.
So Derek Wyatt does a lot of the marketing and advertising for us. And likewise, if you found us through a Facebook ad, it was probably Derek Wyatt who put that up there and wrote the entertaining copy that made you click on it.
He also reminds us that we have to keep doing this every day so we don't forget.
Yeah, it's good. Every morning, the 6 a.m. call.
Yeah, we're like, wake up podcast.
Wake up podcast service has been really, thanks, Derek.
Of course, there's the Mr. Jake Marty himself, who's been on a number of these and helps us answer the construction questions that he's really the man for the plan.
Yep, lays down some intros with us when he's on.
That's right.
I guess as does Derek Wyatt, so thanks to both of them as well.
And Juliet's been on some intros.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have some bands come and do intros with us.
Yeah, so there's Agents of Echo with Marshall and Matt, who have come and been in the studio with us. If you hear voices that aren't mine and Ashkahn's, sometimes it's them.
There's Kevin and Natty from Flying Caravan. They've come and helped us out. And Kevin by himself many times has just called us up and wanted to come record intros with us.
The notorious Kevin Fisk. And then the other kind of on-the-ground Float Tank Solutions team. So our Float Tank experts, Frank and Brian, who have been directing you, our listeners, over to the show and give us questions that people ask them to kind of pass on to the podcast. And just in general, Float Tank Solutions wouldn't really exist without them actually having conversations and kind of being our voice that we don't have time to be anymore with so many people who are just getting started.
And of course, our biggest thank you has to go out to Ashkahn. Like, he really is. He's just been a really big part of this, and I think we can all appreciate that.
I was going to say the audience, but that was very selfish of you. Yeah,
no, that's true. No, really, like we just actually could not have done this without everybody listening and sending in questions. And thank you for sending them in. They're really fun for us to receive.
Even they're really fun for us to make fun of.
Yeah,
as well.
So
actually, I don't know
if laughing.
If you go.
We're gonna get this whole like back and forth communication.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah, we're really gonna get that nailed down.
So no, it's been cool.
We love you.
We do love you. And you've been asking some questions that stump us or are difficult or make us think about things in different ways. We're used to.
So we just sweep those under the rug and you never hear those.
We haven't answered any of those. So thanks for all of you sending the softballs over. That's really made this podcast a lot easier.
No, it has been a total pleasure, and just because we're not doing the podcast doesn't mean you can't ask us questions. So, reach out anytime.
Yeah,
and we're here to help again on or off the air. So, yeah, I just feel like I just want to keep saying thanks. Like, this has been a blast.
It has been. So
thank you.
Thanks.
I'm bittersweet. I'm happy, but I'm also bitter.
We can tell, yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening to our special episode, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you on the 29th. I mean, and tomorrow, too. But
yeah, we'll see you. Yeah, but definitely tune in for the 29th.
We'll get to hang out.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Live episode.
Yeah. gonna be fun.
Huge.
gonna be a blast.
Popcorn for everyone. If you let us know where we are, we'll
nail
send you popcorn.
At least
yeah.
a small handful of popcorn.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Right.